Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and today I'm sharing a flip through of what my Cursed Antiquities and Umbral Society kits look like after you put them together. I'm also going to share what inspired me to create the story told throughout these kits and some of my creative process. If you're new here, these are printable junk journal style kits available in my Etsy shop that you can download and print at home. I provide full beginner friendly video tutorials that help you assemble them. As you craft the projects, you add parts to a story, and at the end, you have a finished project that fits neatly into a decorative box. My inspiration for these kits came from a couple of different places. The first was a video game, Strange Antiquities, that came out, I think, in September for my game system. Strange Antiquities is a puzzle game where you manage a shop selling occult artifacts in this little town. And I haven't had a chance to really play this game yet, but it's absolutely on my to do list. I found the idea of a magical antique shop really fun, and that was my jumping off point. I was also reminded of a couple of episodes of a show called Friday the 13th that I watched earlier this year when visiting with my dad. In the show, a couple of cousins inherit an antique shop and sell off a bunch of items before finding out that they're nefarious in one way or another. I believe the show follows them as they try and retrieve them all, and I'm looking forward to tracking this series down on a streaming service so I can watch the whole thing. So, pulling from my inspiration material, I decided to go with an antique shop and dangerous items ending up in the hands of unsuspecting people. Once I had a basic story in mind, I needed a main character who would tell the story through their journal entries because I like a junk journal style to my kits. So I needed this person to be someone qualified to handle these dangerous items. Originally, I was considering kind of a Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty relationship between the main character and the villain of my story, but it didn't really feel right with this theme and setting, so I decided to table that idea and go in a different direction. What I came up with was this magical FBI-ish agent who would hunt down the cursed items. So using that as a jumping off point, I came up with the Bureau of Esoteric Affairs. It's kind of a magical police who investigate strange happenings. Our main character, Agent Jordan Hale, works as a field investigator as well as an archivist. And in the Umbral Society, we introduce Agent Kitteridge, who's from a division that looks into secret societies, cults, and other groups like that. So I had my characters, a general idea of what I wanted the story to be, and now I needed a place and time for the story to take place in. I ended up setting my story in a city in the late 1920s. I've done a lot of fantasy type themes lately, and I wanted to really do something fresh. I had a really good time researching this era because I wasn't sure how common things like telephones would have been, how many people would have them, how the telephone numbers were formatted, little details like that that really would add depth to the story. And I got to learn a lot of things. I've lost track of how many things I looked up, little details I looked up, what people would have or what they would do, or maybe different terms for things at that day and time. So this was a great learning experience for me. I also decided to go with a mix of Art Nouveau and Art Deco. One was kind of going out, the other one coming in at that time. So I tried to be a little playful with it and mix the styles where I thought they were appropriate. Of course, the city in my story, Marrowhaven, doesn't exist on a map in our world. I really wanted a place that felt like it could be from our historical 1920s, but with an undercurrent of magic woven into the background. I also wanted a slightly spooky name to fit the vibe of these stories. Marrowhaven itself doesn't have a complete history yet, but if I come back and add more stories to the city, I feel like it will develop over time and maybe we will discover together the origin of the city name. Once I had my city and the Bureau of Esoteric Affairs sketched out, it was time to decide how magic fit into this little world. I knew I wanted a low magic type of setting where the magic is laced through a few everyday things for common people, but would only be a more powerful tool in the hands of a specialist. So there are little things that people would take for granted and possibly don't even notice because to them it's just how things are. But for others who dedicate themselves to tracking down real, more powerful magic or magic items, it can be a tool to do good or, in some cases, things that are not so good. I also wanted magic to be common knowledge, that the people of my city are aware of it, they know it exists, and that there is an agency specifically meant to police it. They know who to contact when something strange is going on. I have some more about my process on these kits to share, but I also want to take a moment to tell you a little more about my stories and how they came about in the first place. When I originally started designing junk journal kits, I was making more freeform products that crafters would decide how to use themselves. I did mostly fantasy inspired themes, but I'm not a journaler, and while I liked making junk journals because they were pretty, they weren't really serving a purpose for me. So then I got the idea of adding stories to my kits, which worked well for me, but I felt like trying to design a junk journal on your own and assemble the story in the correct order might not be appealing to everyone. That's when I came up with the idea of a kit that you can assemble along with me and discover the story as you put each part together. Together, these two kits have 7 hours of video tutorial, but it's all broken down into small crafting sessions, so you can split it all up however you like. Cursed Antiquities has 14 separate projects, and the Umbral Society has 10 parts. If you would like to try one of my story kits for free, you can sign up for my email list and get the Written in Ink journal making series sent to you. There is a link in the description down below if you'd like to give that one a try. So let's jump back into my process for Cursed Antiquities and the Umbral Society. I did not originally intend for this to be a two-part series when I started it, but as I was writing the story for Cursed Antiquities, I realized that there was more of the story to be told. It wasn't all going to fit into one kit, so I left a loose thread to pick up again later in the Umbral Society. Between you and me, I did not know exactly where that thread was going to lead as I was wrapping up work on Cursed Antiquities. I had my villain's motivation and goals figured out, but I was not quite sure at the time where the story was even going to go. So I started brainstorming, and that's when I came up with the idea of telling the story not only from our agent's point of view, but also from the villain's. I thought that this fun twist would add more dimension to the story, and seeing the parallels between what our agents were doing and what our villain was up to would be exciting. So I decided to put our villain's point of view under a secret bottom in the box in the Umbral Society, but that left me with how to handle the agent's part of the story and how to make it fit in the space I had left to work with. In Cursed Antiquities, the story was told through Agent Hale's notebook and a series of case files, as well as the containment cabinet. In the Umbral Society, I wanted to keep the feeling of files, but also bring in more traditional junk journal page type construction. So I opted for a series of file folders that would each have two spreads in them. This kept the investigation theme while also giving a fresh construction format for both myself and all of you. If you like the idea of a beginner-friendly craft project with a story and would like to purchase these two kits, you can use the links in the description down below to see them in my Etsy shop. There is an automatic discount that will apply if you purchase both of them at the same time, so be sure to take advantage of that if you plan to get both of them. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this behind the scenes chat about my projects and my process for making them. I've been wanting to share this for a while, and the break between creating big projects was the perfect time to put this together. If you want more information about Cursed Antiquities and the Umbral Society, you can check out the full tutorial videos for each of these kits linked in the description down below. If you enjoy these types of projects, then give me a like and a subscribe so you can stay up to date on my future story kits. And don't forget to sign up for the email list and try out Written in Ink. I hope to see you all back here soon.